let's do over.
Okay, I'd like to call this meeting to order. Roll call.
Scott Patchin.
Here.
Jared Brammerson.
Here.
Mitch Hodson.
Here.
Tyler Munson.
Here.
Terry, I'm looking at Terry.
Here.
James Coyle.
Here.
Mary Scott. Here. And we also have Matt Call and Gary Anderson and Annie.
All right, pledge of allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, proof of posting. A copy of this notice was delivered on the following 8/3/2021 as faxed to Star News, posted at the Black Earth Municipal Building and the Black Earth Post Office, posted on Black Earth's webpage, and faxed for posting to State Bank of Cross Plains Black Earth Branch. Any public comment? Hearing none and seeing none. Discussion action on fluoride referendum.
Yep. You're gonna see in your packets, I put a draft resolution in there for the fluoride treatment. It could be an advisory referendum asking our citizens what they desire to do. I just put in a question. I don't know if this is how you would wanna see this worded. The timing for this is we do not have an election right now until April 5th of 22. We need to have whatever we decide to the county clerk right after the first of the new year. It requires a 70-day notice for the clerk to get it on the spring ballot, well ahead of time. I said that right after January because I don't want to be late with it either, so.
Oh, Shelley, I think it's nice and clean. Nobody can, I
Simple.
think that's very straightforward. So I'd make a motion that we adopt resolution number 2021-12 fluoride treatment advisory referendum to be put on next April 22.
A second.
All right, got a first and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes.
Thank you.
Discussion action on operator licenses.
The policy, yeah, you guys asked for this, to take a look at, and I had several samples that were in your packet. Sauk City and Prairie du Sac have the same, and they have a really nice chart on the back of theirs. I've included, of course, City of Madison, Town of Ansonia, and, McFarland, Village of McFarland. They didn't change a whole heck of a lot from policy to policy, other than the time frame. Most of them were at a, drug-related convictions or any violations within 5 years. There was one that had one of, 2 years. The zoning is good. There's a slew of different things in here. I don't know if you had a chance to look at it, but if you want to set a policy, this is your chance to take a look and decide what you want to do.
So this is the SOC.
No, SOX was this one here, and it had a chart on the back of it. In most of all of these cases, it goes to their police to decide whether or not, and they have convictions or can be rejected or whatever. Here, what happens when an applicant comes in, we do a background check. We do ask our officers if there's anything else that they can see that would be a cause for denial. And, of course, in the past, you have set that if there's more of an immediate conviction that would impact the use of the license or the services thereof would be a cause for a denial, but we just, Mary wanted to bring it up. I'm not sure what other criteria you wanted to look at in policy.
I think we should go with the strictest criteria, and then you can advocate for that person. That's what they do in Winona. The business owner can come in and advocate for the person getting the license, or if it's the business owner themselves that's in question, they can come in and make their statements, make their plea. But if you have multiple alcohol, drug, and violent, a criminal record, I don't think that we want you to be responsible in this small village for, checking IDs and making sure that people are legal, either serving at a bar, because I hear about underage servers in this village, that repulses me, or, that you're serving underage people, that the parents aren't there. That's a huge thing. We don't want to be known as a place that's easy and doesn't check IDs. I think if somebody is that out of control, they shouldn't be serving in this village. They can go to a different village and serve. Try it there.
Well, for one, if they do that, they're in violation.
Right.
But, nobody's getting in trouble. So my point is, we just want to send a message that Black Earth isn't where you come if you want shenanigans. You're 21, or you're not drinking, or you're under 21 and you're with a parent.
And we have a police department that can do walkthroughs too. I mean, that's how we did it in Platteville. We just told the police department, look, you're gonna have to start going to the bars on Friday and Saturday night and doing a watch-see. We've got the resources, they're here. I don't think they'd mind going into the shack, going into the, and just doing a walk-around, look-see.
That would definitely be a conversation with the police committee.
I was gonna say, you definitely.
Yeah.
Let's
Because they
take it
used to
there.
have, like, once a year, they'd come in but they had other officers killed in that. They'd come in like once a year to the bars and check them like that, but I don't know that that's happened in a long time.
Right.
Well, you were a bar owner.
Right,
Did you have a problem with it?
no.
So, Mary, you said there's somebody who is underage serving?
I don't go to the bars, but they,
I do, and I have
There's
not
people
seen it.
people that have come up to me and said, this happened on this date, and I said, it's not, I'm one of 7 people. You can bring it forward, but I wasn't there to see it. And do you know for a fact that person is underage, and how do you know? They know the family, they know the circumstance, and I said I would bring it to the attention of the administrator.
Here's the thing with operators, you could be 18 and serve alcohol, you just can't drink it.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
No, I know.
Yeah.
We were in the business for 38 years, I get all
Yeah.
that. But the point is, you can't be, 11 and serving shots. You can't be 12 and serving shots. You have to draw a line somewhere. And
Well,
then,
I sure hope there's
you can't be drinking without your parents. If your parents leave the premises, you can't be sitting there consuming.
Right.
And it's not just like, well, we're just all family.
I mean-
There are rules to that.
But you can if your parents are there.
I mean,
If your
personally, if
parents are
I,
in
yeah.
King County, Wisconsin.
The bar don't have to do it.
But if they're
It's
not
optional.
there,
Yeah.
they're supposed to be there with you.
Yep.
They're not supposed to be like,
Absolutely.
run to the other bar and leave you there.
Yep.
So if the person's not gonna come in and say something or put it in writing, I wasn't there, I didn't see it.
Right.
But
Yeah.
I assured them that we take our licenses very seriously here in Black Earth. We don't just hand it out.
Yeah.
So I think sending a strong message with, that we can go back, just to protect our village, that we can go back 5 years. And then if that person wants to, it happened once with one of our family members, that a person got a DUI right before they started working at that person's bar. And the bar owner went in and advocated for the person took the alcohol awareness, course and completed that. And they said, if you do that awareness course, that was just a fluke that had happened right before, but they watched and they made sure and they checked in. But it worked out, ended up being a fantastic employee.
We did have that in one of my former communities as well. Operator came in, he had had a conviction within 2 years of underage serving. He was going through courses, the owner came in to advocate. He had to prove that he had gone through the course, which happened about 6 months later, along with a letter of support before that village issue.
Yeah, I think that's fair. If they want the job, bad enough, they'll do this. And I think that then that leaves the decision. I just remember, so James and Mitch will remember this. You were on, I think, at the time, but there was the guy from the gas station, and he had a conviction. Does anybody remember how, it was like within the last 2 years. But we had no policy, and I said, I think we really need policy so that the control is here. So there was no way we could deny it, because we had no policy saying we couldn't deny it, was the determination that night. I want to make sure that that doesn't happen again. Not to pick on anybody, and I don't even remember the person's name, but that the control.
I remember the one, it was at P&G.
Yeah. I just want to make sure that we have discretion here, and that we know who's serving and protecting our minors and abiding by the law.
So I like this flow chart, kind of takes
I do like
the,
that too.
for the board.
I also
and-
like the actual reading of the ordinance on the back, short, sweet. And then it'd be the board's responsibility ultimately to say yes or no? Is that where we're headed?
Well, it is anyway. But you have to be fair to everybody. You have to have guidance and,
Yeah. I personally, I like the idea of having, getting set criteria in place. I don't necessarily like the idea of saying, well, if somebody violates this, then they can come in and advocate. It's like, well, then so then it's just like, you could get into a situation where people say, they're friends of somebody on the board and therefore they're just getting the shoe in. It's like, you either have criteria or you don't, in my opinion, and I don't have a problem with it being strict either.
I hear your words,
So-
I appreciate that, I do. I think that if the person takes the course though and shows that they are,
Yeah,
that
well,
they made a
that should be
mistake.
the.
well, that can be worked into the policy. It can
Right.
be, okay, if you don't meet these, here's how you can come back, if you violate one of these, over the course of 6 months, you take blah, blah, blah courses, and it's more work for you to get your job. If you really want the job, that's what you gotta do.
Right. No,
So-
for sure, that's what I meant.
Yeah.
To be clear, I was thinking of a new candidate coming in that hasn't been licensed here before, but then certainly that applies also, of course, to the business owners who we put to the highest standard. I mean, everybody has to follow the standards, but that business owner, you folks, is hiring, even if the person doesn't have a record, that the person is hiring somebody of good quality that's going to uphold the standard.
Yeah.
Alcohol should not be served to, and we already went over that.
Yeah.
So, but I think that if there's somebody that just has 5 years ago got a DUI, what are you gonna do? I mean, penalize them for life or her for life? There's gotta be some,
Yeah.
Well, part of
some
the, and,
wiggle.
well, and I guess you can look at that a couple ways. First offense OWI is not a crime in the state of Wisconsin. And they have to go through certain classes after doing it anyways. That should qualify at least the first offense. So you gotta keep that in mind too, it's just because somebody made a mistake, you can't hold it against them forever.
Well, we
Now, if
have
they're
the criteria.
continually getting OWIs, or had more than, you know what I mean? Now it's a problem because it's a trend.
But this states already that you have to have more than two, or have two.
Well, I know, but we're just talking one, and have it, so.
I don't know, I think make it really strict and then, have it, prove that they take the class for the one, but, I mean, on top of this, though, the violent
Can't take
offenses
a class,
too.
get their license.
Who had that really good list?
Is this SOX ordinance or just their
It's in
criteria?
their policy.
Their
Their
policy?
policy.
Okay.
Violent crimes crimes involving law enforcement officials. We don't want somebody like that serving here, and somebody takes a swing at our law enforcement.
Yeah.
Manufacturing, distributing, or delivering, we've got little nest eggs here, I hear
Well,
that
them
are
are
brewing
crimes.
up in Black Earth.
That's
We don't
different
want
than
that
a
serving.
first WOWI, that's all.
We don't wanna bring drugs and have it start at our bars with dealers or whatever. I think some of these things, we just don't want them serving.
Well, I like the SOC one. I mean, if you have any alcohol-related law in the last year, boom. 2 within the past 5, that addresses
Yep.
your issue of,
Yep,
you've had one recently, sorry, you gotta wait a year.
yep.
You've had 2 in the past 5, that's a trend,
I think
because
that's fair.
you know that they're not getting caught 2 out of 2 times.
5 out of 2.
So, probably 2 out of 7, or 2 out of 20, or whatever.
Yep.
Go to New Mexico, it's 25 out of 500, so.
But I'd like to add that violent crimes one from, who is this?
I think that's, Village of McFarland, I think it was the last one.
Yep. It's got the multiple pages, whatever. The second to last one that starts with operator's license approval policy, 4/13/2020.
Yeah, it's the Village of McFarland,
It's, oh, okay, I didn't see it.
section.
I saw it on the internet, but I don't see it here. Anyway, but I like that the violent crimes too, I just think we wanna maintain a happy, friendly atmosphere, and we don't need, riff and laugh. But I would add that, I love SOX flow charts, but I would add some of these, I think they're pretty simple: violent crimes against persons, violent crimes against law enforcement, and manufacturing, distributing, or delivering controlled substances. That's not getting caught with a joint in your pocket, that's distributing.
And this would be under the license review criteria,
So
correct?
we put it into this flow chart, that it's not just alcohol-related violations, but also these are taken into consideration, A, B, and C from.
Okay.
I mean, so basically, the Sauk City one that I'm seeing, Mary, item 3 says if they have any drug-related conviction, so that would address the issue of any drug stuff. And then number 4 addresses disorderly conduct, battery, resisting, against a police officer. We would just have to add violent crimes against any other citizen.
Yeah.
Would that be covered by any felony conviction that was not duly pardoned?
Yeah, that would cover that pretty much.
Is assault a felony? I don't know what the.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't know.
It'd be a felony.
Misdemeanor or not.
So we don't have to add then, A, the violent crimes, or we do?
Well, I think, so the last sentence of 4, any felony conviction that was not duly pardoned, I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know if that would cover it or, I don't know what the different degrees of offenses are.
I don't know, does a bar fight get you a felony these days?
If there's battery involved.
Okay. I've never had to worry about it, so, right? Never had to look into it
Substantial
before.
battery.
Yeah.
So would we wanna add it or not?
Sorry, Mary, what were you gonna say?
No, I think, okay, go ahead.
Do we need to
Well,
have?
it's pretty much spelled out. Disorderly, battery, resisting, obstructing, an officer, not all of that's officer, that's anything.
Yeah.
Any felony conviction that was not duly pardoned.
Yeah.
It's pretty
Oh, I
well
see
covered.
what you say, yeah. Yeah, 'cause the or resisting, yeah.
Yeah, but we would adopt this
We can-
SOX policy.
I would think so.
Well, should we wait until the next one and have a demo typed up so that we can see it before we,
Not picked up.
I was gonna say, was this is.
are we adding, didn't somebody say add any felony without a pardon?
No,
No, that's
it's,
the second sentence,
Right.
second sentence of number 4.
yeah.
It's a little faded on mine, but
That's how it, yeah, that's how it.
Calls for a service to local.
Well, we could take care of it right now, if somebody make a motion to adopt this policy with those changes.
Do you wanna do it?
I'd be happy to.
Which changes, so, just help me.
Well, the only thing that we've been talking about is everything that we talked about here has been covered on the flow sheet, right?
Yep.
So just,
So,
Okay.
I'd move that we adopt the Sauk City and Paradis Act, alcohol operators license review criteria as given to us this evening. I think that's it, yeah.
that's for moving forward in any,
That's anything moving forward that has anything to do with licensing bartenders in the village, or Class A. That's my,
I'll second.
All right, we got a first and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, carries. Discussion, action on resolution 21-10 requesting exemption from county library tax.
Actually, we do have a operator's license permit.
Oh, we do, don't we, P&G?
It is a renewal, it is clear, like I said, you should license every 2 years.
so I had to look up that name.
Yeah.
I had to Google that name.
That-
Tyler, that stands for Happy Princess.
Oh.
Just so you all know.
all right.
And these, Shelley, these get checked first before they come to us, right?
Correct.
Okay.
We check them through, CCAP, and then we give them to our officers, another check if we see something suspicious.
Well, then I move that we go ahead and approve this, Valdir Coward, the Happy Princess.
I'll second.
Okay, a motion by Scott, second by Terry, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, carries.
Now,
All right, now how about discussion action on, resolution 2021-10 requesting exemption from county library tax?
yes, this is an annual exemption request, so that we don't have to pay taxes for library stuff, so this is just some housekeeping, it's time of year to do it.
I'll make a motion, we go ahead and approve the tax exemption for library tax.
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. All right, discussion action on ordinance violations, property maintenance, and weed nuisance.
Yep, we have had an abundance of calls this year. I handed out a list to everyone that this year we had at least 16 cases between property maintenance and weeds. Last year we had 9. So,
Bless you.
It's all that
definitely.
weed pollen in the air.
A couple things that we're having some concerns with is regarding some property maintenance issues is our ordinances allow us to go in and abate them. However, abating a property maintenance may mean that our guys were to go put siding on a house that needs siding, which we don't do, or hire it out. And it also has in there where there's to be cited on a daily basis for the violations that we originally cited. So I don't know how we wanna handle some of that. Weed maintenance and our weed man over there.
How many people have we cited so far this year?
We have had 1 property maintenance citation go out. Weeds, I don't believe we had another one on weeds go out. So
Citation?
literally, the officers have issued those citations, 1 on weeds, 1 on property maintenance. Most of the rest of them are working with us to, get through that.
Right.
Or, we've got repeat violators. We have a couple of lots that we send multiple letters out a year, they'll mow it, and then 6 weeks later, we're sending them another letter. 6 weeks later, we're sending them another letter.
But that's supposed to be getting taken care of now, too, right?
Yeah. So,
The ones that weren't found are working with us now, right? Correct?
there's a few of them, but
Yeah.
it's increased, obviously.
Yeah.
There are some situations where, Matt is not a perfected weed person, so identify weeds when it comes down to, some serious issues, and our building inspector has thought and requested that maybe we put somebody in the budget to come and do this for the village on a more regular basis than what we can manage here, and more skilled, more experience behind them, so.
No, I'm not a fan of finding every day, personally.
That's up to the judge, actually,
It
after
is.
it goes to court, but a lot of these violators have not been given citations yet.
Right.
It does take a lot of our time,
Does.
between notifying and trying to babysit them and follow up and even mow in some cases. Matt, I don't know how many lots you guys have mowed this year.
Usually there's 4 or 5 of them.
And then, of course, billing them and then hoping we collect on it and.
Or adding them to taxes, and
These like empty
Take a
lots
lot of money to
for
do that.
houses, or, like,
Some,
yeah.
we have, some property owners have 2 lots, the house that's on one, they bought the one next to it,
Mhm.
and that means we needing attention.
Gotcha.
Just, board needs to know that this is a lot.
yeah.
So in response to these complaints, also, people contacted me pretty well off the hook. There are people that are not on here that are definitely in violation, and they're wondering why some people got called and why some didn't.
Well, and Mary, that's part of the challenge, so when we get it 2 ways, we either have our weed commissioner is noticing it, or we have people filing complaints. It's both. We don't have the time or the resources to go all over the village and get everybody. We don't
You're
have
waiting
it.
for a phone call from somebody to alert you to the
Or,
property.
or if Matt is noticing it.
Right, but we all know that 1307 Madison Street has a garage door that's been off the hinges for like 8 years, and that it has derelict, unlicensed vehicles that's been brought to the attention of the police officers here. And, the answer was, we haven't given a citation there, therefore unlicensed vehicles, which is also a violation of our ordinance, are still not being, that they can't pursue those and get people to get derelict vehicles off their property. So we have to equitably enforce our ordinances across the board. And it can't just be one person getting an itch and wanting to pick on another person.
Right, I got scorched by 4 or 5 people over this, and, you're right, it has to be done on
There's
a
also,
level playing field, I agree with that. It's good for the gander, so to speak, and, I don't know how we achieve that without,
That's the thing.
there's
I
a
mean,
house that's been wrapped on Blue Mountain Street for 3 years, no building.
is this not in the,
That's,
excuse me,
Well,
is this not in
that's
the
one of them.
that's
we're talking
number
about.
14.
job
Yeah.
description?
It is in his description,
Well,
but he
then
is
where is he?
here.
There was a citation there.
Yeah.
So
given.
here's part of the issue with that though, Scott, is he's supposed to be coming to our next Public Works meeting for some of the same discussion, because one, he is very busy. He doesn't have the time to go door to door either. It's a matter of having the resources available to do that. And I will probably, after that discussion, put something in our budget to bring someone aboard. And, I mean, this is why we have to have this discussion, is we gotta figure something out. Because we don't have the resources or the skill behind us to determine property maintenance issues. We can do that. Property maintenance gets pretty dicey when you land up in front of a judge. It gets dicey when we have a trustee with the same situation, and we can't use our own people because of that conflict.
Well, we've had a village president that's been living on a property that doesn't have working cars that are exploded tires. Everybody sees it when you enter or leave the village. That made it impossible for the police to enforce those ordinances when they were called to the attention. We've got the property you're talking about with the wrap on it. They are using plywood as their garage door. People are putting up those big RV, garage thingies. They're metal. Does that require a permit? They're right on the property lines. If you can't have a shed on the property line with modern ordinance, then how are those?
Exactly. So,
If it's movable.
yeah,
Yeah.
some of them are temporary, some of them are
Movable.
considered temporary
They're
structures.
temporary, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And any shed by the time can be anywhere on the lot line too.
Nope.
So do you wanna see what the building inspector says at the next Public Works meeting?
Good. We've
I
had
think
this
that's where the
discussion.
hangup is.
You know, the thing of it is we've also had this discussion at the police committee level and trying to figure out who does what as far as in the process of citing people. So I feel like this just keeps going around and around. with
Well,
no
it's hot potato effect.
Well,
Yeah.
the police committee went through it for a long time, and
resolution.
they will not do that.
No,
What do you mean they will not do
enforce
that?
our ordinances like that.
Why won't they?
because they're not skilled to determine what is a weed and what is not.
Yep.
And if they
Now-
have to testify in court after they've issued someone a citation, it's kind of a conflict.
But they'll issue a citation
Yeah.
for Matt or whoever
Yeah.
determines it is a weed.
Exactly,
They're not trained to determine if it's a weed or not.
right,
The police, yeah.
Right.
The police are not gonna go walking up and down the street and say, that's a noxious weed.
But our building inspector is certainly trained to look at these buildings that are all screwed up and
Yeah.
go,
but it's a matter of time.
We've had buildings in
well, we
this
pay him,
village-
don't we?
We do,
Okay.
but we need to have the discussion with him on what he can and
We've
can't.
had buildings in this village, and we currently have some structures in this village that you could drive a Yugo through the roof, that the holes in the roof are that big. We have a building, a house in this village that is using tarps for a roof. I mean,
No,
we
that
just see
one.
this on our walk. What I was told by the police when I went to them and asked them, how do we get to the bottom of this? How do we make some sense? And he said that he was given a flow chart from, the way that it's supposed to happen. It has to be a written formal complaint. And he said from a resident of the village, but we don't, I guess that's tricky. And then from there, the village has to investigate it. And there was a whole flow chart. I've got a copy of it, I don't know where it is.
So, if you have a complaint, file it.
Yeah, I agree.
So, you say it's been 2, 3 years, file a complaint. That's the best way to take care of it.
We can't do anything if we don't know.
Yeah.
No, I agree, which is why it's, you know, and then if it's just one person that's consistently calling on another. The swimming pool is over 18 inches, so the swimming pool has to come down and be moved 10 feet off the property line, because we have a vertical structures addendum. Every shepherd's hook in the village needs to be taken down then, because it's more than 18 inches tall, and they're not 10 feet off the property line. There's some crazy, you know, you can just sit and argue about, somebody's property all the time, you know, with that.
Are you talking about the
particular
fence
amendment.
ordinance?
Huh?
Are you talking about the fencing ordinance, or the pool?
No, there's a vertical structures amendment in our ordinances. Anything over 18 inches in height that's fixed needs to be 10 feet off the property line.
Oh,
So the swimming pools that we have up in the village that are keeping the kids cool, need to be 10 feet off the property line, and they also
Well,
need
there's
to be
actual
licensed.
ordinances for pools though, that are separate
They
from,
need to be licensed too, but then they fall subject to the vertical structure rule.
if it's under 16-foot round,
Mm-hmm,
and it's a movable pool,
right.
you do not have to be, there's totally different ordinances than what you're
Well,
talking
you
about.
need a license, but
You don't need a
anything-
license for it,
Well, yeah,
absolutely do not.
yeah. I had to get one for mine, they took my money.
Okay, well, the point to this whole thing is I think we need to find either a dedicated person to take care of these issues, or find another way to deal with these ordinance violations. What would your pleasure be?
I would say we already have a weed guy, we already have a building inspector, and we already pay dearly for our police department. And if a complaint gets filed, it goes to the weed or whoever, building inspector, we're all busy, you know? So, and I haven't seen Tracy Johnson in his office on Thursday for I don't know how many months. And so,
Yes.
does he wanna work for us or doesn't he?
He used to come in on Monday morning,
Well, whatever,
yeah.
you know, but I'm just saying,
Yeah.
you know, we've got what we need to do this.
We have it, but.
It's just that
now we
everybody's
do.
going like this with the potato. So, let's just keep it all right here, we don't have to go out and hire some UW specialist in botany to be able to come out and identify a noxious weed, we just don't.
Sounds like a good job for an intern.
It does.
Sorry.
That's all right, all in the discussion, but I think we've got what we need, it's just that everybody likes to go,
I guess if, sorry, you said we have a weed guy, is that somebody in Public Works? You?
It's Matt, but he doesn't really know
Yeah.
weeds, right? There is an app you can get for your phone that tells you what a plant is by taking a picture of it, works
Yeah.
pretty well.
I finally broke down.
I have it.
And
don't
weeds
know.
are subjective, right? A weed is just.
We have weeds by ordinance, they're
Yeah,
listed
they're
out.
listed, there's like
Actually-
8 or 9 of them that are listed,
Right.
listed noxious invasive weeds or whatever,
Right.
which is what I assume we're all talking
Stuff
about.
like that.
Okay. Incorrected then, yeah.
So, I'm gonna ask Matt, I'm gonna ask you a question. Would it be of interest to have like one day a week set aside where you're going around the village to notice weed stuff?
I necessarily think one day a week.
Well, I don't know what it is, I'm
One
just
day
starting
a
to
month,
throw that
you could
out so
probably
that,
look in, or every other day.
you know, we read meters once a month, maybe it's
Exactly, but then that
property
adds to,
weed checks every other.
that adds to the meter reading, as you're going through each yard. Okay, so on my route of 100 houses, I had 6 or 10 violations, I'm gonna start writing out. That's just gonna take.
Okay, what about the places that you don't have meters, like, vacant lots, right? So,
But you usually see those, though, when you're out and about, the vacant lots anyway.
What's it?
You usually see those, though, don't you, when you're out and about, the vacant lots aren't just in the middle of nowhere, everything is surrounded by houses
Yeah,
here.
everything's, but,
That's something that can be done during the brush pickup, just, oh, hey, look, maybe, not to actually like actively be doing it, but, something as they're cleaning brush up, they can just see, oh, hey, maybe that house needs a further inspection or something.
well, that's fine.
But just for weeds, though, because I think, like, our business.
Exactly, where are you
we
gonna
had
draw the
talked
line?
about-
If we're just
Right.
doing weeds, that's fine.
Yeah.
In my opinion, the building inspector would take care of
I agree.
siding on a house.
Yep.
Door
Yeah.
rough stuff like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah,
But he's never here, apparently, because he's
well,
not seeing
that's why
huge
he's been
holes in
asked,
the roofs of people's barns and sheds. I mean, how can he miss
but
it?
he's been asked to the next Public Works meeting for the same discussion, so I think when that comes up, we can, figure out. Tracy, can you make it once a week, or whatever it is, I don't know what that's
I
discussion.
think some of the businesses, the things that people were most mad about is that some of the businesses have derelict and peeled, the apartment owners have peeled paint on their houses and look like decrepit roofing areas. They've got people living in basements without egresses to get out during fires. They've got, poorly maintained sheds, or, fences. There's, derelict and junk in the back of one bar apparently, and there's a derelict refrigerator back there that's been there for like 4 years. There's just weird, I think Tracy needs to make time to, I mean, this stuff, you can just see it,
I
apparently.
agree. We have a building inspector that we pay for. If he doesn't
Well,
want
he
the
pays
job,
for
we go
permits, right?
someplace else.
Yes,
He's paid through permits.
and property maintenance.
So he'll probably charge us for doing
He
this.
does,
So
yeah,
it's not free.
so,
He doesn't get paid if permits are an issue, so.
Maybe
That's
once
where
a quarter or something, so, I mean, if we gotta pay them.
Well, he's gonna bill us per hour.
Right.
I mean, it's only fair, that's what you do when you're in business.
Right, but to have them come out every week, it seems a little extreme.
Yeah, he wouldn't need to come out, as long as he covers the village once in a year,
Right,
then.
because a hole in the roof is not gonna
I mean, he could
disappear.
take a day, we could take a day and come out and get the bad properties cited and
Right.
say, this is what we need to
Do it
do.
less after you're all caught up, but.
Yeah.
Right.
It then becomes, I mean, if you're talking about the presence of weeds, how,
No,
certain
not the
types,
building inspector.
yeah, not the okay, so that's just for the building,
Yeah.
okay. But even going back to the weed issue, having somebody identify that, it's gonna turn into a I just see, getting to the, well, why am I getting picked on and so isn't? They have, well, I saw this one weed in their property and I have 8 and I got picked on, you know, like, is that really where we wanna go
I think
with
it's
this?
more-
I mean, I bet 90% of properties here have one of those noxious weeds on their it's like, that's, again, it gets back to setting a measurable ordinance that you know,
I think it's more the time.
percent density, overgrowth,
More.
you
Not
know,
just a one-time thing.
is it, you know, 3 strikes and then you get a violation or something like that, I would wanna see in place before you just start
I
saying,
believe
hey,
it's like
Matt, every
work with
month.
first.
Yeah,
I don't believe violation is just
yeah,
go do it,
well, that's
right?
what that's, 3 you know, hey, we had a complaint, can you please be a nice neighbor and deal with it?
I think,
No, you're gonna push back, okay, sorry, can you pretty please do it, you know?
Well, it's not like
Okay.
we do something and we just send them a citation.
Yeah.
We send them a letter, give them.
yeah, we send them a letter and stuff.
usually start with a phone call, and then the letter, and then they have 10 days, and then after 10 days, they review it again.
Yeah.
There's a process.
And I don't always hear about them, but if I do, I try to reach out to them too, you know, so.
Another issue we have to be careful on is just because somebody lives at the property, if they don't own the property, it might be bad for the person who's in the business of renting the property to have the tenant put on notice that the property is in some sort of a violation.
When that happens, landlord and the tenant get the notice.
But the tenant is not responsible for property maintenance.
They are if they rent.
No. The landlord is, it's in our ordinances. The landlord's responsible for
In the end,
the property.
he'll be the one that probably gets the ticket, but they're the ones in violation to begin with. It's up to the landlord to make them comply, right? So,
It's just always my understanding that the landlords are the ones that maintain the properties unless there's some agreement that the.
That's just it.
Well, in our lease, you know,
Different
our
emails.
renters shovel, I'm not gonna shovel, so that's in their lease. And, but I do keep up the property, I mean, that's,
Remember the Adler house that sold, the one that's right by Lukenbooth, or, Mackerbacker? They had a boat and a golf cart and it was billowing out the side of their house for about 2 years. That's right on Main Street, and
I'm not sure it's a violation.
you can't have that stuff all stacked, there was derelict stuff, the boat was filled with water, there was no top on it, I mean,
Is that now or before?
no, they sold it, and now there's somebody else that lives
So it's
there.
not something happening now.
But it's an example of how far things go just right on Main Street, just right in our site, and nothing happens. But then, if somebody has some weeds, oh my gosh, there's citations issued, and it's,
That's not
I think
really true.
there's gotta be, well, there's gotta be uniform enforcement. Somebody that has cracked up driveway surfaces that owns a business, that has to be, if it's in our ordinances, that shouldn't be looked past
We got
either.
many village buildings that we have paint chips and dented tin, and, I mean, we gotta start
Steel
worrying about
paint.
ourselves. you
Oh,
know.
for sure, the
Yeah.
fencing at,
Yeah, you're right, absolutely.
at Veterans
I could probably go down and find
Very
50
bad.
things
On our building.
on your building alone for the village. So, I mean, you gotta do it within reason. You can't go, hey, you got one chip of paint peeling,
No,
that's no
nobody's
different than a whole
talking
house
that.
peeling, you know what I mean?
But when the village owned Restore, Bulldog Restore, the village did nothing for that property. That was.
We didn't own
We
that.
didn't own it, it was a,
It went
It was
straight from
donated
one
and
to the
leased.
other.
No, the village owned it for 3 years.
We leased it during that time.
We
And
did own
leased it to him, so he was responsible for it,
Yeah.
but then nothing was done.
Yeah.
So what do you need from us for the list you have now?
And
What,
just to make
I don't think
sure,
there's any easy answer.
this is the
No, but I
list,
mean, do
this
we
is
need-
the list we're talking about, right now, the
Yeah.
current, the emails, or
Well,
on
there's
this side?
more,
Besides
know how to move
2020.
forward?
there's
Oh,
more,
okay.
there's a few more complaints than what's on the list active right now. It's just they're being dealt with and people are cooperating, so there's no reason to,
Yeah,
so.
Just know that this takes a lot of our time.
Yes.
We're all trying to work it between Matt and Danny and myself, with property owners. Again, we have repeat offenders year after year, or even every other month. So,
And I even get
And then,
nasty
you know,
emails
even with the
from
businesses-
property owners that, hey, you're not taking care of this is.
yeah, I mean, you know, here's the other thing, is we have 2 of our businesses who have had letters, and one had a citation, and, you know, when we look at what we're trying to do for economic development, it's really hard to help support these people when they're in violation of ordinances, and then they're mad at the village, and just, oh my goodness.
Gonna ask about that with
It's
Mackerbacker,
tough. That's a tough spot.
where,
Yeah.
so with Mackerbacker, I see they have a citation issued, but they were given forewarning of.
Oh,
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
Mhm.
Okay.
And they're a situation with a landlord-tenant situation, so
Okay.
both parties knew very well. Ken continues to be a work in progress as well.
Okay.
Bulldog.
Oh.
Coverage.
Are they ever gonna take down that additional, 40-foot structure that just,
There's no requirement unless the board's gonna order it, but if we're gonna order that to happen,
unless it
we
poses
better
immediate
ready.
Well,
safety issues to the
you know
public.
that that's full of pigeons and poop and then feral cats breeding like crazy in there. It's a cat brothel and a pigeon poop hole.
That's good, I'd rather it be that than a rat nest.
But there might be rats in there too.
Not if
That was
it's
cats.
cats.
That would be fat cats.
Who knows?
That was a problem at one time when they first shut that mill down, rats were
I
everywhere.
guess, I mean, the whole point of citations is to have a fine that helps offset the cost of your time. So I get that it's a significant amount of work to do all of this work. Is there,
Ordinance minimum for violations of penalties, is $200, maximum is $500. That is all we can do, and that's per state law. The thing is on multiple violations, until it goes in front of the judge to say, okay, you're ordered up, then it's worth anything.
Yeah.
Um,
and that's where,
our judge.
and that's, per day is a
Lenient
new violation, right, or
as well,
something?
so-
Yeah.
Well, for the same reason on weeds too. Like, one explanation I heard is that there's weeds in people's lawns, like planting, clover, blah, blah, blah. It's, okay, that's weeds, and it's in somebody's lawn, but they're mowing it, so it's still weeds. But then what about the noxious lawn weeds? There's a category of those too. If somebody says, well, how come they can have weeds that they mow and then I can't have, I don't know. I think the weeds is a tricky thing, and I think the judge tends to be more, who's proving that this is, or whatever, and maybe there's just not a good enough case made for it.
But I guess what I would
Well, I have
ask
clover in my yard, but it's mowed.
is,
Try to ticket me.
Which is-
We'll be going to court.
Look at our parks, we have clover.
Right?
But it's not just the weeds, it's anything over 12 inches or.
Yeah, it's the height.
It's not spread out or.
It
because
does-
you have this weed
It
here.
does say,
I guess the only thing I could really ask is each of you as trustees, help us with this. Help us be a solution, and know,
Well, I think there
be supportive.
needs to be education, right? Because I'll throw myself on in front of the train here. I probably have noxious weed in my yard. I can think of at least 2 plants that I like grow in my yard that are probably on that noxious weed list. And I grow them because they have medicinal purposes, right? And so, to me, they're not a weed. And that's what I was going with earlier. A weed is subjective, right? So to me, they're not a weed, and they are listed on the medical boards that they are medicinal plants, not in the medicinal plant type that would normally come to mind, right? So I think education is maybe where we start educating the village on what is acceptable and what isn't. Because I'm gonna go home tonight and look up that list, and if the 2 plants that I'm thinking of in my yard are on that list, I'm gonna go dig them up. You know, and I didn't have them there out of, being lazy or anything like that. I had a reason for them to be there, but if they're on that list, then, I need to take care of that. But I also didn't know that there was that list. So I think maybe education, and whatever that form may be.
And maybe the list needs to be updated.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Well, like wild lettuce, that is
Mhm.
very medicinal.
Right.
So I was growing wild lettuce,
Yep.
and I was told that was a noxious weed. So I
Yeah.
knew it wasn't a noxious weed, but the poor person that wrote it up decided that that
Right.
was gonna be the threat, noxious
Mhm.
weed. But wild lettuce is not a noxious weed, and it's medicinal. So there's a segue though, there's a way around that. We do have an ordinance that talks about, prairie.
Right.
You can have that for, what is it, $25?
Yep.
So possibly we could, some of these that are medicinal could be
Right. And that's,
under that prairie, and if you pay the $25, you can grow your lettuce. As long as it's not something that is gonna get away from
Right.
you, and
Well, I think if it's growing in a garden type setting, it's not a problem. It's when it's a mess, it's when
when
it's
it's
a
wild,
problem.
unkept.
Yeah.
And in 2
And all
months,
over,
in 2
hanging over.
months, we're not gonna have
Yeah.
a weed problem, but we'll still have the housing problem. We'll still have the construction. That's a year-round thing, and the weeds die because it gets cold in Wisconsin, so, it's actually, we're dealing with, 6 months of weeds, maybe? So, I agree, if we're
And
gonna
it is
fall into this.
We do get complaints, it's a pain in the ass.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And then you get challenged because, it's not fast enough, or it's not, it's a pain in the butt.
but then on other properties, that's like the one that's using tarps for a roof, I don't see that address on here.
I've never seen a complaint, that's where we're going with it. These actually have physical complaints, so,
It's down toward Quick Trip on the left, and they're tarping their house, so that, because the roof must be compromised, it's been,
write a complaint.
okay.
Can't do anything if we don't know about it. I've probably even seen it, just haven't recognized it.
I haven't seen that. I'm gonna go look now.
I mean, I feel bad for
And keep in mind, when you complain, they can request you complain,
Right.
and they will be watching you.
Yep,
Yeah.
All right,
I'm not ignoring you, I'm looking at our ordinance
Okay.
right now.
Yeah, I was trying to look it up
Right.
too, and
The first thing in here, it says the clerk treasurer shall annually, on or before May 15th, notify everyone. I assume that's happening.
Can you tell me what you're saying again, I'm sorry?
We haven't put an ad in the paper, we usually put
Did we
it
move
on
on?
our newsletter.
I
No, we're still talking.
Still the weeds and.
Okay, we've moved
What's
on.
the ad? I'm missing what they're talking about.
Our ordinances have in there that annually the clerk treasurer should put notice out about a noxious weed.
Noxious? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, you gotta be careful about
And
that.
it basically says, it puts it, it sounds like it puts it on, all we do is we send that notice out to all, to public notice, and it's the private residents' responsibility to take care of their own land. If you don't, then we have
I still think it's better to give a warning first.
then it
But then
says,
you have to-
well, then it says if there's an issue, then the weed commissioner of the village shall give 5 days written notice by the mail to deal with it after expiration, then it goes on. I mean, I don't need to sit here
So-
for everyone, but.
I guess we really haven't solved anything.
Well, except
we're
for
gonna-
Public Works is gonna talk to the
Yeah.
building
Yeah.
inspector.
And that'll help, right? So,
I hope
Here's
so.
one of the concerns of some of the people that that I seem to be, well, it's repeated only twice, but that they said, I don't wanna put my name on it because I don't wanna be that person. I don't wanna be identified. And a lot of it is they're really frustrated with it, that they don't wanna be identified
Yeah.
as the person who picked on the 85-year-old lady and the person that picked on the old man whose wife just died. You know, they don't wanna be that person, but they want something done. And I think
Well,
they think.
They don't have.
if somebody was, me personally, if my neighbor had an issue that was bothering me, and I didn't wanna be identified because I didn't wanna pick on them, I would offer to help.
Yeah,
Right.
that's what I would do too.
And they,
And I
they
think,
want
and I
to
would
do
hope
it.
that it's received well. But that's just me. I mean, the biggest thing too, to get back to my fear or concern of being, over enforcing a weed issue and having some monthly citations or warnings given out, is you're gonna create a fear, if I don't do something about this, I'm gonna get a $50 ticket or a $200 or $500 ticket. And you're gonna get a lot of people going to Home Depot and buying and applying stuff in quantities that they have no idea what they're doing. And then you've created a much bigger problem, in my opinion, as opposed to just dealing with the few cases where a neighbor calls in and say, and then if somebody says, well, why am I getting picked on, and they're not, say, well, then if you have an issue with it, you can be that neighbor too.
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, it's more about community, right? We need to be able to talk to our neighbors without fear of repercussion.
Yeah.
If there's an issue, you gotta be able to talk to them and sort that out. It shouldn't be up to the village to sort out everybody's problems. We're here to help facilitate things, but we really shouldn't be the ones that are trying to dictate how people live.
And sometimes you have to though.
We also.
And those cases,
That's why we
yeah,
have
there are
ordinances on it.
Well, I mean,
We gotta you have to take care of them somewhat, I mean.
Right, and I'm not saying that we ignore our ordinances, I'm saying having our community members resort to the ordinance before they resort to a, open communication, open dialogue with their neighbors, I feel like that's taken away from the community aspect, right? I use myself as an example again. My neighbor had a tree that was kind of getting a little wild, I could have easily reported him, but instead I said, hey, I'm trimming up this other tree, can I go trim up your tree too? And he said, I don't care what you do, go trim it up. And I went and trimmed it up, and it was done, and it was over with, and it was done, but I could have easily came and said, hey, file citation, do a report, and do that, and made bad blood between the neighbors and stuff, but it didn't, and now I trim up this tree every year for him, and I don't have a problem doing that because that's just me, I like to do that type of stuff. But I think that's promoting that kind of atmosphere where we're open to be able to talk to our neighbors. I think that's something in the modern day that we have lost. And that's where coming back where people are like, I feel like I'm telling on them.
I blame air conditioning.
Yeah, we're inside too much.
Gary just posted, perhaps the ordinance needs to be updated.
Yeah.
Maybe?
That's fair too.
Well, we already
It's
said
important
it needs to be
so
reviewed.
that standard, if the standard is that it has to be a written formal complaint, phone calls and emails to buddies, or phone calls and emails and not giving their name, or doing it on an email where their name is blocked.
Right.
They wanna get the information in, but they don't want, so there are a fair number of properties that are identified by a phone call or email, but the person won't come in and do an actual written complaint. Written complaints should be the concern, and all the other stuff has to be dismissed, I guess.
Yeah.
But there's nothing that says that if
People could
somebody.
make fictitious complaints all the time. You're not gonna chase every complaint. If
Absolutely.
somebody's not willing to put their name on it, I'm not willing to.
But if
Exactly,
they're just
exactly.
calling in, or they're just writing in, they're not following the protocol. The protocol, the flow sheet that I got from the sheriff's department here, was that it's a formal written complaint, signed, and then B and C and D, whatever, I don't remember, but they were color coded. And if I can find it, I'm sure Shelley has a copy of it, but I can make copies of it. But that's the way, that's the flow. Now, if a neighbor doesn't feel comfortable talking to another neighbor, but knows somebody that might feel comfortable talking to that person, I don't think there's anything wrong with that, but it's not formal.
Right.
It's not for Shelley to get involved in, it's not for Danny to get involved in, or even Matt. If there's just, two people talking from the same village, I think that's great. But be clear in the distinction, written formal complaint phone call, email, 2 different things. This one's more like somebody help me, and this one, village has to take action. Village could probably slow down its numbers if it followed the written formal complaint litmus test, and then the rest of it just went through, you know, personal.
But anyways, we know that he's coming to the next Public Works meeting.
Right.
Let's go with that. And, I mean, we get a complaint, we have to act on it. Otherwise, we've talked way too much and solved nothing so far. So, we're gonna move on.
I just want one thing, with Tracy, I think we need to make sure that he's consistent.
It's up to Public Works. He's going to Public Works Committee. He's not coming here. So, we'll let Public Works do their job, and then we'll look at it after that.
I'm
So,
just mentioning from a trustee perspective, consistency, because some people are allowed some things, some people aren't, and the inconsistency has me worried that he's making deals with some people and he's not making deals with other people.
Go to
We
Public
just need
Works.
to make sure.
Yep, go to Public Works. Okay, let's move on. Discussion action on Park Committee recommendations. FI is Field Day Subcommittee creation. What is?
You want me to take it?
Yep.
Okay. We had several, well, not several, but last Parks meeting, we talked for a little while around the event, field days, the grand opening, and kind of what we can do better next time. One of the things that was suggested and that we voted on was creating a subcommittee, that would, handle the field days going forward, so that way we're not waiting till the last minute to get parks involved or other people involved. This is a committee that would be effective immediately, and they could start their planning for next year right now. So the Parks Committee voted on it. We voted to approve the subcommittee, so I guess now it's coming to the village board, as, I guess, acceptance of that, motion.
Yeah, they want Matt and Megan on the subcommittee.
Yep. So, yep, Megan. Yep, so Matt, Megan, Tom, Beth, and Pam, so there will be at least one Parks Committee member on the subcommittee, and then our Parks Director, and then our 3, community members, that helped us with it this year as well. Seemed, well, it passed, the motion passed at the Parks level, so don't know what more we need to talk about here, if we need to pass another motion,
I don't
or
think we do we? I mean,
this is more of a,
Yeah.
FYI.
They can create a subcommittee, I think, without our,
huh?
I don't think we have to approve the subcommittee.
No, I mean, Parks did it, right?
Yep.
So,
You said that one of the board members is gonna be there? at the-
One of the Parks Committee members will,
Parks Committee
yeah, on the
members.
board, or on the subcommittee, yep. So, Megan will be there.
So
Cause
just gonna-
I don't remember what, as a trustee, if we attend or if we're part of a committee, is that paid, not paid? If somebody goes to an extra subcommittee, is that more paid, is it not?
well, let me ask this.
About that.
Is the Field Days Committee gonna be an independent organization from the village?
I don't think so.
No,
You don't think so?
they would report to the Parks Committee, and then Parks Committee would report to the.
I'm just
village
asking,
board. Yeah.
okay.
Great question.
Yeah.
I had the same.
Well, one of the reasons we wanted to do the subcommittee was, by default, by doing that, they would then fall under our insurance for the event, which is one of the big issues that was
Yep.
previous.
Yep.
Insurance has always been an issue, so by creating the subcommittee, we kind of take that out of the issue, so they would be a member of, the village then, so that they could fall under the village's insurance.
Okay, makes sense. What about items 2?
And make it a subcommittee so that they have voting powers on that topic only, but not all things parks.
Correct.
Correct.
Yeah, they still report to Parks.
Yep.
Okay. All right,
And
what's
then
up?
I'm gonna go back to Tyler's question, do we pay all of them the subcommittee? And then Matt as well, I mean, Matt gets flex time for,
See, this goes back to that question, is it gonna be separate from the village, or is this gonna be a village-sponsored event? And
Well, I know
my position on
I
that.
know your position, absolutely.
and that's kind of a segue
Can you
to
state
the
your
second
position
question.
again? Because I don't remember what you said.
I think it should be that we provide for the upkeep of the parks and all the maintenance and all that, and an outside group or a nonprofit wants to run field days or whatever they wanna do, that's why we do our job, is for outside groups to come in and do celebrations, things like that. I just see it as being, all of a sudden, government's having to take over that responsibility, and I don't like it.
Yeah, I agree,
That's fair.
100%
I
agree.
just don't like it.
That's why it's,
Question, do we run the, who runs the parades that go on to?
Field days.
field days committee.
Yeah.
Field Days Committee, so that's all paid through that as well, so, yeah.
But
Yeah.
that's all chamber stuff, right?
Yeah,
No,
Chamber,
well,
well, not this year, because they didn't, but chamber did
It
feel
won't be
like.
going forward either.
Huh?
It probably won't be going forward either,
Not with the
Won't be in
chamber.
charge of it?
no.
Why is that?
They don't.
They kind of wash their
Oh,
hands.
they
Yeah,
don't, okay.
lack of interest.
Well, my concern is this, if it has nothing to do with the village, then the village doesn't have to worry about, I see two areas here. Cash has not been turned in, and invoices have not been turned in. Maybe they're turned in as of today, but
No, they're not.
well, the concern would be if money goes missing somewhere, or who's in charge of the money.
Well, the money's in, right?
No, we are missing, the GoFundMe monies. Apparently
$700.
Pam has collected it, but hasn't turned it in. And then she's got invoices for the food year that we haven't seen as of yet. And then, porta potties, we haven't seen that invoice come in yet as well.
So is that somewhere else on the agenda here?
That's kind of a segue into our next item for this
Okay.
discussion.
Yeah. Okay.
But,
I mean, we're not there with subcommittee, so I mean,
Right.
we shouldn't be, yeah.
yeah,
And I think that's like part of the reason of the subcommittee is so that we can track where that money is coming and going. 'Cause right now, we can't track that, right? We don't have any say in that really. We've got promises, but we have no way to enforce those promises.
Well, here's the beautiful thing, the Easter egg hunt, they got all volunteers, they collected money, Shelley got some funds up front and stuff. He got eggs from somebody
Yeah.
to fill, he did that all on his own, and what did the village have to do? How much time did it take you personally?
not,
Nothing. So, kind of a beautiful thing,
Right.
that way too. Now, if anything, if an invoice wasn't turned in or something, I don't know anything about that. It was an Easter egg hunt, and I know nothing about eggs.
Well, since we're talking about field days,
Mhm.
you wanna go on to number 2?
Yeah, so the next part of it was because of the budget that you have in front of you, we actually came out ahead. There was a gain, and because of that, we didn't have to, the village board had approved $10,000 for the fireworks, but because of the work that was done, we didn't have to touch that $10,000 at all. So there's still that $10,000 that are sitting out. So one of the things that we wanted to bring to the board and have a discussion around was, with the creation of the subcommittee, we take that $10,000 that we've already said we're gonna pay towards it, have that be their seed money going forward. And so that's our monetary commitment to field days from here on out. We don't add anything more than that 10,000. That's a seed money for them to start preparing for next year's event, and let them use that money for fireworks or whatever going forward. But then it's, from this point on, it's up to them to generate that money. So fundraisers, donations.
So that
things
can
like
get
that.
gone next year if it doesn't, if we flops.
Well, maybe not, I mean, hopefully they make more money, right?
Right,
Well,
right.
yeah, that's always.
But we should never have to,
We won't give
We will
more,
not
as a
have to
village,
give
we
more.
won't give any more. So that would be the end of our monetary commitment as a village.
Except that we did already vote on that as a board, that the $10,000 would be returned to us if there were profits. So many donations were gonna come in, and the village would pay zero if enough donations came in.
Well,
right,
the
and the
village-
village was
the-
made whole this year with that.
Right, but they still have the money, so the money needs to be returned to the
No,
village.
the money
no,
has-
the village
we have
is
the
all
money.
here.
They
We
don't.
have it all here, right,
Right.
yeah. Mhm.
We're
So it's not
asking,
seed money for anything, it's not sitting, it went back into the fund that it came out of, right, the EDC fund?
right,
That's
so
what
we're
the development
asking to use that as seed money
For next year.
for next year, to start the subcommittee, to start them off on the right track, if you will.
so the original,
That's the decision for this agenda item.
Right.
the original vote, which I'm not sure you were here that night, Mary, was we would go up to $10,000.
Correct.
Now, the other stuff was, maybe we wouldn't have to do that much, they could bring some in, but we really committed 5,000 towards fireworks.
Right.
And the other 5,000 was to help get going, with the possibility of maybe paying it back. It wasn't a guaranteed thing,
Right.
so.
But when I did go to the next meeting, though, we talked about it, and it was decided at that meeting, it
I
was
don't
told
think
to
we voted
me-
on it, though.
I don't
It
remember a
was
vote
told to
on that.
me, it wasn't explained that it was in two different categories. It was told to me that it was, if it was, the funds were raised,
Mhm.
the village would not pay any of that 10. If they couldn't raise any funds, the village would kick in 10, and that's it.
Up to 10. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that was, yeah, we voted on up to 10. If they needed that 10, they could use it. If they didn't need it, then they didn't use it. If they did use it and there was kickback afterwards, they made money, then that would come back.
Okay, then my question is, if, like, I'll go back to, it is seed money and the seed money gets burnt, it's just gone.
Mhm.
It's gone, it's gone.
It's gone, it's gone.
So if we end up with, having to finance $7,000 next year, there'll only be 3 for the following year.
Correct.
Is that how it works?
Yep.
Okay.
Absolutely.
The other part of this, though, is that if the village commits to this for next year, they would like to start their own checkbook.
Yep.
Which would take that control of those funds away from us. They would, I think there's an expectation that that money would go into their checkbook for them to use
Right.
for the
As
event.
long as we get audits, rights, I'm fine
How
with
about
it.
we do it the other way, and they start raising money earlier, and it looks like they raised good money, and it looks like we can call on these people again, and that they start raising their own money, and if for some reason they're short, they come to the village. With their short, and the village at that time can vote on it at that time, instead of giving
Yeah,
them.
there's no guarantees then.
Yeah, no guarantees.
Yeah, and I think that motivates them, instead of the handout first, it motivates the creature to, and I like that it would be separated, not that I don't want the village involved, name on that.
Right.
But if these private people like these drag hunt wanna do it, and they've got the gumption and the energy and the time, and the people, I think that's great.
That's why we provide the parks. Yep.
Right, exactly, and it should be noted too, that the village is kind of kicking in, because when they're using, I don't know, Matt, did they use Public Works to help
Yep.
tents, and so you guys are on the clock, and we're donating labor, really.
Yep.
It's-
Yeah, labor's on the sheet,
Yep.
Labor's all in there.
for us plus office staff, so
Yeah.
that's all on there. Hours it come in for? So it wasn't anything
Okay,
donated. it was
anybody wanna
donated.
make any motions after that
No,
discussion?
you guys always.
Right, but we do kick in, so my point is,
And we always will,
oh, here it is.
in
And
that
we do kick in
aspect.
for that, so that is a great savings, and saves skills, right, Matt, you guys know how to put up a tent, and where porta potties to go, and there's a skills there.
So I'm hearing then that we don't want to use the 10,000 as seed money for next year, or seed money to start the subcommittee.
I don't think it was really said, they were just suggesting from different people. Nobody
I
knew
just think
more.
it's given, if they want a checkbook and they want $10,000 from the village, I don't think that's good governance. I just think that, if they wanna go out, start their they don't have COVID this year, or they might, who knows?
Right.
So the point is that they were behind the 8 ball. Well, we've got every opportunity as a subcommittee to not be behind that 8 ball anymore. So, go after it.
And by vote, we still have the money available if we really need it.
If
I
we
mean,
really need it, we've got it by vote.
The way I see it, the biggest reason to let this be run through the village, through a subcommittee, is in order to take advantage of the insurance.
Right.
That's the biggest issue of letting the chamber do it, is then they have to get their own insurance, it's a big pain in the butt, it's a waste of resources.
$3,000.
Make it easier for this subcommittee to do it, just not through the Chamber of Commerce.
Right.
The biggest, last year or whatever it was, we can't, the chamber said, we can't ask our members to put in more money for this because of COVID, they're already hurting, we can't ask for more money.
Right.
I'm looking at this, they can raise money clearly.
Yep. And they have more time to
So-
raise it, so let's see what happens.
Let them be a subcommittee.
Yep.
Have more time to raise money. It seems like things are recovering. And we can, I'm not opposed to, if there's a shortfall later, helping out a little bit, but,
Yeah.
Never exceed that amount.
But I think that the village residents like the celebrations and they wanna see it happen, whether it's a Chamber of Commerce or whether it's through the village or some, I think people want parades and they want fireworks, and I think it's a reasonable expense, preferably through the private fundraising first.
And it's a well-established template. It happens in a lot of places exactly like that, that Big Brother isn't kicking in and they go out and they fundraise. As soon as that festival's over, they're fundraising for the next year. There's the bank account you suggest and the checkbook that you suggest starting right away.
All right, what's, item 3 then?
So item 3, volunteer payouts, do you wanna cover this one?
Yeah, so Pam at the Parks meeting suggested with some of the funds that were left over that we give a kickback to the fire department, American Legion, and Home Talent, and the Don's family for $250 each for their time volunteering.
$250 to the American Legion.
And $250 to the fire department, $250 to Home Talent, and $250 to the Don's family. If you're paying volunteers, they're no longer a volunteer.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just think
And if
that
you're
that's
paying,
And in my opinion.
They've always done that in the past, I think is why they're looking at that.
but
why it
it's
doesn't
also
run
what,
anymore.
that was part of the chamber's reason of not having
Yeah.
any money, and
Exactly.
I don't know how much they paid out, how much.
And we don't need it, so.
I would say if there's extra money, it should, that's your starting fund for next year's celebration.
Yeah. That's-
When I volunteer for something, I don't expect to be paid for it personally.
That's kind of what I came to too, is if we're paying our volunteers, then they're employees, they're not volunteers, right?
Yeah.
We're taking away that goodwill that they're doing by giving them back something.
And giving them seed money of 10 grand ensures that, so.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I'm sure without that money, the fire department still help next year.
So where am I seeing that on here?
Volunteer payouts?
Yeah. Is that actually part of the budget, or was that just
Well,
a,
I think the board's looking at it as an oxymoron,
yeah,
volunteer and payout,
right?
right? Is that kind of where
I just think that they did it because they wanted to do it, I'm not sure. I don't know why the whole Don's family's paying $250 and what they're gonna do with it, but I'm sure they must have put in an excessive amount of time to be notably named, you know, Don's family.
And they did all the breakfast and everything and all the egg cooking and all the, they did do a lot.
Decorating.
Huge. And we should send out thank yous, which it says here, thank yous for,
Yeah.
the donations, but, you know, if you thank them for their time.
That is
Yeah, and I-
historically what they did, is that we would keep track of hours, even going back to like when I did Girl Scouts, we had Girl Scouts troops, we had Boy Scout troops, we had any other organization in town did work hours that they were reimbursed as a fundraiser for their own groups. And I think the Legion put in a lot of hours, and I think the fire department put in a lot of hours, not necessarily to get a $250 check. Part of it as a community, but part of it is the same way Mazo does Wild West Days. They're looking for volunteers to set up tonight through Friday night. And they said to track your hours for reimbursement from the funds of the celebration. So it is a way to ensure that community help continues and that some of the groups get some reimbursement for the times they spent.
That's fair.
But that reimbursement goes to something they can donate it to another
Organization.
You
organization.
can
It
pick a
doesn't go to
nonprofit
them.
and it goes to the nonprofit, it's a goodwill thing. I didn't read it to say that it goes to our wallet, it would go to our nonprofit.
You know, and I think in the future it'd be okay for organizations if they really made a lot of money, but they really didn't make a lot of money this year.
Right.
Well, that would be something that they vote on after this year, whether or not they want to use any of their residual. It would be its own entity.
Right.
So this year, thank yous and handshakes and that rock. And then next year, any of that money from that, if you want to pay out with that money, that sounds great.
All right.
Did we wanna make some motions?
I don't think there's any motions to make.
Well, y'all go with the subcommittee, it's a subcommittee of the village, you're creating it officially.
Subcommittee of Parks.
Of Parks, which is a village,
Parks can create that, right?
are y'all?
But
good?
we don't want it to fall under our care, we want it to be privately operated. So
Right.
their subcommittee
We don't
would
want it
run
to be
separate
under
from
our
us, and they
purview.
don't get paid for their meetings.
I agree. It's where the,
Yeah.
it's where the cat gets out of the bag right there. So,
I was told at that meeting that you said this is separate from the village. This is not the village's deal, this is separate. And I like that idea because I think.
I think the only reason it is part of the village is for the insurance.
Sure.
And that's the only reason.
That's the only reason, yep.
Okay.
And I mean, they would report out to us more as a awareness, you know, hey, Parks, we need this from you to help, you know, set up a tent or something to that effect, but we're not gonna be there to hold their hand through the process.
So I make a motion that we form the subcommittee creation to be a separate entity from the village, for field days, and, no volunteer payouts
No subcommittee fails.
and no subcommittee payouts. That would all have to come from their actions and their fundraising. So, funds commitment, we've already discussed it within my motion. I'd say that no, that we will not use the 10 grand for seed money for next year. That there's plenty of time to get money raised and, be separate from the government. I don't know if I needed, anybody else have anything they want in that motion? There's an awful lot of discussion.
Yeah.
I'll second it. Okay, we got a first and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, G, discussion action regarding village board minutes, 7/7/2020.
I make a motion, we approve.
I'll second.
Okay, we got a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Discussion action on treasurer's financial report, July 2021.
Okay, your treasurer's report, look at this, oh my gosh. Is through July, at the end of July, we were sitting with 2.48 million in all of our accounts. Our LGIP account is 1.12 million of it. I'm hoping to move some of that LGIP funds into, an interest-bearing account. Right now, our current interest on that million plus is $45 a month. It's not giving us anything. Our August tax settlements, you'll be seeing those for August treasurer's reports, and also our refinancing money is in the month of August, so next month when you see it, you're gonna see a lot of money, come into all of our accounts and then go out, just as a note. So all 2.6 million, or no, how much was it? 3.6 million came in August for the refinancing, and debts have been paid off at this point. Moving on to our revenue and expense reports, those reports are through the month of August, where we're expected to be at about 66% to budget. In our general fund, our revenues are now sitting at 100%, with expenses at 58%. That influx of revenue is due to those August tax settlements coming in. The tax settlement, considers our taxes all settled, with $218,000 that came in the door, and of course, the, ARPA funds have also come in the month of August, so $74,000 is sitting in those revenue accounts. Notes on some of our expenses in the general fund. I'm expecting our library full-time wages are gonna go over budget. They're sitting at 91% right now. Library telephone is also probably gonna go over budget. Police gas is over budget, and police supplies are gonna be going over budget. Just as a note on those. On the electric side, the revenues are sitting at 67%. We're finally over where we're expected to budget. I'm happy to see that. Expenses are sitting at 63%. Influx to those revenues, of course, we've had some pretty hot months the last couple of months, causing increase in those revenues there. Our water revenues are sitting at 75%, with expenses at 64%, and sewer revenues are at 69%, with expenses at 44%. I think our sewer revenues are a little lower than the water, just because we've had a lot of exceptions that have been written off due to a lot of watering, from new lawns to pools to, you name that going on, so. That that is what I have for your financials right now.
We got any questions? I'll make a motion, we approve the treasurer's report and financial reports for July.
Second.
Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, discussion action on invoices to be paid.
All of you should have received, invoice lists that came in over the weekend, in addition to what was in your packet.
I have a question for clarity. Whenever it shows that our attorney goes to court, and then the number of hours, I love that that's included now, I think that's great. Do we get reimbursed then if the defendant loses? Or is that village money that just goes out the door to litigate things that, how do we get that money back?
We generally don't.
Okay,
I mean, they pay their court fines and fees, but that does not include, I mean, unless the judge is gonna order up attorney's fees as part of that, which I don't know that he does.
can we request that?
I don't know.
That that becomes his vernacular?
That's something we could throw out to him, I don't know.
Does anybody else think that would be a good idea? If you lose, you pay.
Is that split between Mazo too?
No, these are
that's
just
just,
Blacker citations. When he's going to court, he's only going to court on our behalf. They have their own attorney.
And
Right.
here, and while you're thinking
Separate
on
cases.
that, about reimbursement, I got another question. Could we get somebody, a junior attorney at Axley that gets paid like $175 an hour to go to court?
It's not just Bill Cole, there's,
Yeah.
I'm sure that
There's an
he,
assistant.
I'm sure Bill doesn't do it all.
and
No,
other-
he doesn't.
But that's like a paralegal, that person can't go to court, right?
They're an attorney also.
There's money?
There's also an attorney, the other person.
The paralegal's an attorney?
No,
Oh,
there's two attorneys.
oh.
A paralegal can't come in and defend somebody in court.
But I'm
It's
saying,
illegal.
I'm sure he has a paralegal for looking all this stuff up, and that saves money in general for the research. But I'm just wondering how we can.
Well, my daughter's an attorney, and I can tell you right now that's not gonna fly. I don't,
Right, no.
now you're getting into their business, and
All right, so
Can we ask for recouping?
we can put that on a future agenda, but it's not something we're gonna discuss during this.
Right, exactly. I'm just wondering, just
So
throwing it
what
out
would
there.
change then is if all our stuff went to county instead?
Well, then you get
All
nothing,
our
right?
counties, yeah.
Well, what's our revenue on it? We've never seen a revenue.
Actually, when you look at your treasurer's report, there's an account that says municipal court on it, and those are the fines and fees that we collect from citations. When you look at your treasurer's report, it's about 3/4 of the way down, it says municipal court, and there's $28,000 sitting in there that we've collected from fines and forfeitures over
And that-
time.
And that goes back to the general fund, right?
It
So-
can.
So what are our expenses over the time?
Our expenses, when you look at your revenue and expense report, you're gonna see, find it. On the second page, at the top, where it starts general government,
Yeah.
municipal court salaries, office supply, training, legal, admin, software bond, those are court expenses that we pay out of that 28,000 that's sitting there.
We adopted, it's like about 13,000 in estimated expenses,
Mhm.
and over that time collected 28,000 in fees.
So it does pay for itself.
Well, it doesn't pay for itself, but what it does do is you could say, oh, if it's gonna cost attorney fees, let's not, but then people are just gonna do what they want, right? You gotta prosecute if they're gonna fight it, so it is what it is, all right.
But it's not losing, because Shelley said, yeah, it does pay for itself. The expenses are covered with the, what we received back in. We're not paying out.
Right.
Yeah.
Any other questions on bills to be paid? I'll make a motion that we approve invoices to be paid.
I just have one more
Well,
quick
after a
question.
second, then we'll discuss, there'll be discussion, yeah.
I'll second it.
Okay. Any more discussion?
Matt, question on CT Labs, it spells out the $30 nitrate nitrogen testing water sample, and then it says water testing fees.
Yes, for $200.
Yeah,
So there was also one for, I don't know if that was included in this invoice, there's one for, byproduct disinfectants,
okay.
so that should be $200.
Yeah, I just didn't know, because they spell out the analyte on the nitrate, I'm just curious why they didn't spell out what analyte it was on the other, but, yeah. No problem. Okay.
Any more discussion? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, passes. All right, reports. Vanguard. We did have a special meeting to go back over the contract, for the electric utilities director. That meeting was on August 16th at 5:30. We changed the contract, agreed to it, went into a closed session, came out, made the motion, and it was adjourned. The next meeting will be October 5th at 6 p.m. I can kind of talk about what they've done a little bit.
And I have something to add to it.
Okay, go ahead.
So, Sean isn't here, he's in Mayville, but I just want to update everyone that we are working with Forrester on their contract for services. We'll be meeting with them actually tomorrow morning. They're coming here to talk about, contract and then take us over and look at a couple areas for possible purchase to the substation. So,
October 5th.
October 5th.
Okay.
Yep.
I know that they've been doing a lot of work out on Highway F.
Yep.
Is that Cedar?
Cedar Hill, I think.
Yeah, Cedar Hill.
Almost wrapping that up, I think.
That's a huge project.
Yeah, it is.
Wow.
The one with the revenue stuff like 1,000.
Yeah, like $42,000 for the line alone. I know they worked on the pole a little bit down in front of the lanes.
Yep, trying to prep that one in the shack.
Yeah,
I think they kind of wrapped up their Mazo project on 14.
yep.
They're still trying to get concrete to finish those poles.
Yes.
So that's about all I know that right now for them, so.
Then I have a question. Shelley, you had said a few meetings back that it would be helpful, and I'm gonna say this wrong, but, it would be helpful if Vanguard, we got them contracted out to bring some more revenue in. Is that right?
I don't remember saying that.
Like, they go and work in Mazo.
You can't say that. You can't bring that up. You can't tell them where
That's right.
that they have to go somewhere and work or not for money, because
Oh.
you can't say that. It's illegal.
Right.
You can't try to push them off on the other municipality. They have to work where the work is.
So not, okay, but that it would be helpful,
That's how Mazo would have a fit.
that it would be helpful if they had other contracts? Are we there yet? Are they working outside Black
Oh,
Rock
yeah,
right now?
they're working on a project, we're getting paid, so.
Cool.
Not outside of our territory.
No, it's our territory, but
Right,
it's
right,
on a
no,
project
no,
that pays.
Mary's suggesting they're working for other.
And we can't say that, it's not legal, so.
Well, we've been not legal for a long
You
time.
can't, well,
Because it's been talked about a lot.
Mazo could come back.
Yeah.
You can't do it, so we're moving on from that. All right, Mary, Black Earth Fire?
Okay, yes, Black Earth Fire met on 8/31, and, let's see, I guess the biggest things would be the roof still isn't done, it hasn't started yet. They're still waiting for the seal to be, completed, I don't know if it's changed since then. They have some there was a motion that passed that, we would have the fire chief every year would give a printout to the committee of, the year that vehicles would be replaced or refurbished, and the projected cost of refurbishing or replacing that vehicle, so that the districts that are part of this fire commission, would have, notice. And they're also wanting to move some of the vehicles a little bit, spread them out a little bit, so that it's not every year that there's a big expense. So that was, very good. And then, I think that's about it. They're talking about the returned earnings again. They still are not sure. There's still some conversation about, whether or not there's gonna be just the dedicated levy funds or also one that can be moved around. And, the districts all feel a little bit differently on that. And they came up with a figure of, the amount that we're going to pay toward, replacing a vehicle. Village of Black Earth will be paying, somewhere between $7,500 and $9,800 and $9,800, into the association to replace one of the vehicles, which is a 93 Jeep.
And they're putting that in their budget, or what are they doing?
It's in the budget.
Yep, well, the budget's not, we haven't convened yet for the new budget, but it's gonna be after this budget though, because we're convening for the budget and they're not replacing the Jeep until after that, so it will be after. It will be part of the new budget.
The 7,500 for a new Jeep, is that what you said?
It's our portion.
Okay.
The Jeep is estimated to be 42. That's an old figure, but they think that they can, when they're ready, they're gonna put feelers out to find one. So at that, how much it would be, association dues will be between $7,500 and $9,800 for Village of Black Earth. And if you want the numbers for the other of our, I can give those to you. Any questions? Next meeting is November 4th at 6:30, but there is a budget meeting.
All right, thanks, Mary. Dane, Iowa.
Let's see, we met on August 19th. Pretty much just approved bills. There was a vote, for a facility plan. We had put money into the accounts to have it done, but now we had the vote on if Town and Country was gonna do it, or we're gonna go out for other options. So the vote was 5-2 to have the Town and Country do it. I and another guy had voted not to do it right away, to go out and have other proposals done. It didn't cost anything, but everybody else felt since Town and Country was there since the beginning that they should just do it. I don't believe that you should just go with somebody because it's there. So that's why I didn't vote for it, but Town and Country got it anyways, and it wouldn't have changed, it's just now they have no other bids to come in, so. There was no discharge violations. Okay, that was, phosphorus. Nope, that's gonna be later, so, that's it. The next meeting is September 16th at 6:30 p.m.
Emergency management, we haven't had one. Well, we've been doing the hazard mitigation classes online, some of us have,
Yeah,
but we really need to try to get some of those in.
yeah.
We can, they are sending the recordings to me because I'm not always able to
Yeah, that's
attend online Zoom, so I've got the recordings, I just don't know how to prove to you that I, but
Yeah, I mean.
They have to record it though, right?
Yeah, they record it.
They have to record when you're done.
Shane gives it to me,
Yep.
and then,
Okay.
Yeah, I do get an attendance list, so I know who's not attending. But I will tell you that we have worksheets that have to be turned in. I had the first 4 are done. I had some questions on one of them, but that'll be submitted on the village's behalf tomorrow. There are several others that are coming up with the September 23rd deadline, and I need help putting those together. We definitely need to set up a meeting to work on that. So within the next week would be great, because we have with Public Works and Parks and everything else coming up, we gotta get it fit in to meet that timeline.
So emergency management needs to meet next week,
If we can.
or I mean, this Tuesday.
Tuesday.
This is the holiday.
Who's
Tuesday,
chairman?
so sometime this week.
What's that?
Who's chairman or chairperson?
We've never had one village president
I'm
election.
not, am I? I'm not even on the committee.
We haven't met
Oh.
as a
That's like
committee.
that one.
so-
I just wondered who was all on the committee. I know it's Mary.
James is indefinite.
I was gonna be there for fire, but I don't think I was on the
I
committee.
gotta look at the list.
Okay. Well, let's find out, and, I mean, if it is me, let's set a meeting up for next week.
And it's not just the board here that has to be part of that. I mean, Matt, you should be part of it from Public Works standpoint. We should have Dan here.
Yep.
That.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And anyone else from the public that we think could be a big benefit to this committee should be part of this.
Emergency management,
Yeah.
it's Scott, Tyler, Mary, and Mitch is the alternate.
Okay. When we get a date, I'll check out my Dan.
Yep, absolutely.
So I'll be there for.
Is there anyone else in the public that we should have part of this discussion? Anyone that would be a benefit? I'm thinking somebody from the.
Well, if any other
nursing
board
home.
member wants to attend to help with the stuff, would be helpful too, right?
But the idea is to have some public input on what's important out there, not just our
Yep.
viewpoint, so.
All right, we'll get a meeting set up. EMS committee,
We have not met since our last village board meeting, let's see, we're meeting this Thursday at 6, so September 9th at 6.
all right. Library board, Terry.
Yes, we met on Tuesday, August 24th. We had a full agenda. Part of the agenda included discussion on the audit. We had discussion on the 2022 budget preparation, and we discussed, reviewed, and approved the Dane County Library Board and Black Earth Library Board agreement for extension of library service. But I also see that Bailey is in attendance, our library director, so I would give the floor over to her to give her more in-depth report.
Sure. Okay.
Yeah, so our last meeting was on August 24th, which was rescheduled from August 17th. We talked a lot about the budget for 2022. Since it's my first one, I've been getting a lot of help, so I've been appreciating it. We did talk about the audit. At our next meeting, we're planning on inviting the auditors to attend so that he can give us a separate presentation and we have an opportunity to ask questions. We did have some concerns regarding some of the recommendations, and we're still working on the reconciliation for that. I talked to Mitch, and a lot of those concerns came up during the last meeting, so we're hoping to get that resolved.
Yep.
We've given out 60 park passports as part of our park passport program, so that's really exciting. It's been very successful. And our next meeting is on September 21st via Zoom at 7.
Okay, thank you. Public Works, Scott.
Well, I have to be honest, I don't have the minutes with me. I leaned over to Matt and I said, "You got the minutes, Matt?" So, and I don't have my phone here either, because that's when I could tell you when we met. You got that date?
It was on August 16th.
August 16th.
Do you want me to go grab them quick?
If it's not trouble. I should have.
Actually, why don't we go to Parks and then we'll come back?
Sure, that'd be great. Thanks, Sean.
Okay, so we met on the 16th of August. We talked about the field day stuff that we've already discussed earlier in the meeting. Outside of that, we did a little bit of budget preparation, talked about what we were looking for, which leads into the Legion wants to help with the Vets Park in some way. So we kind of discussed options around what we could do around what we could have them help us with. One of the talks was removing the fire pit, because it's really not used. So those are still ongoing conversations, which then also led into, we invited Dennis to our next parks meeting, to start talks around, reacquiring them a building, or getting them a Legion Hall or a site. There's really nothing to report on that, other than Dennis is gonna come to the next meeting and we're gonna start those conversations.
You might wanna give just a hair background why we're talking about that?
Sure. And maybe some of your older people that have been around a little longer than I can fill some of it in, but, from my understanding, at one point in time, the Legion Hall sat where the current tennis court. They gave up that site in favor of the tennis court, under the understanding that the village would then at some point reevaluate and give a space back to them. So that's, I think it's brought up kind of on a yearly basis, about when we're gonna start those talks again. So we're just trying to honor that and get those conversations rolling, in the right direction for that.
All right, thank you.
And we're gonna meet again on the 20th of September at 6
As
p.m.
long as we're talking parks, I happen to notice that the American flag is not lit down there, and it's a beautiful, you can see it from Highway 14, Park Street coming in. I think
Park?
it's something, yeah, at Community Park.
Oh, Community Park.
And I'm thinking a solar lighting unit might not be, if it would qualify under the ARPA funds,
Oh,
maybe that's something we could write down, light the flagpole in Community Park, so it's lit at night, 'cause you can
Yeah,
really,
there's power close by.
is there power close by?
Scoreboard.
I say it should be really close.
Yeah, they might be
Better
able to pull off of that.
I was just trying to be green, Matt.
No,
It ain't easy being green.
but I agree that.
Yeah, it'd be nice to light that up at night.
Yeah.
I just think it, you know.
I don't wanna say there's a legal requirement, but I think there is some kind of requirement about
There is.
flying a flag at night, so, yeah. So we'll bring that up at the next part.
Thank you.
For sure.
All right, thanks to Shelley. The Black Earth Public Works and Utilities Committee, we met at, August 16th at 1 p.m. Cedar Hill project work continues. Mill Street light replacements, as you can see by the shack and the lanes, it's coming, I guess we're waiting on cement. So solar for the new school addition discussion with the new vendor. Let's see, Kurt and his wife had their baby and he'll be off for a bit. Foster, we just talked about, they're coming in tomorrow. ARPA funds, we talked about, but I don't think the public, you can see our public works list up there. It has mainly to do with fluoride and laser chemical monitoring and some things that we need to maybe upgrade to make sure we're getting the right juices into people. We discussed an adopt a planner initiative to take the watering of the flowers and the plants, which was never supposed to be underneath the Public Works job description. That was always gonna be a chamber when that was adopted. I'd like to see it go back to that, so we put something in the letter, in the newsletter. And, I know that if the village doesn't wanna take care of theirs, we'll take care of ours and theirs. But my wife has already volunteered to do ours. If we could get some businesses to just water their plants.
You're talking maybe adopt a.
Adopt a planner.
Yeah.
Yeah, so hopefully we see some more input on that. Cause I just don't see it, I mean, it's costing us a lot of money to water flowers. And I think our Public Works Department could probably find other things to do. Discussion on weeds and nuisances, we've been through that. I'll take you back there. We're waiting on DOT permitting on the shoebox sidewalk. DNR sanitary survey report, safety gear discussion to meet water reservoir recommendations. Discussion on creating a 5-year plan to redo all the piping and add faucet at or near the well house on Park Street here. Discuss an action on budgeting 2022. Shelley pretty much explained what we gotta be doing in that, mailer today. The crew helped out cross plannings, survey with DNRs done, samples submitted, tree work done. And then there was a community event, which I thank Matt and Megan and all you guys. It was a wonderful thing. I didn't get a chance to attend, but it was very nice. That 350 is just being a bear. I did see the invoice on that.
Yeah, and that's gonna have $800 tire put on it in the next month, so
It's just nickel diamond, isn't it? How old is it?
that one is a 2013 with 55,000 miles on it. Unfortunately, when you look at a municipal vehicle, you times it by 1 or 1.5, so just with the idling, aggressive plowing, wear and tear, so figure that truck's got 120,000 on it in your normal personal vehicle terms. So that's something, budget-wise going forward, I think that we will definitely start cutting down on, or cracking down on, is trying to purchase new vehicles and spend more money purchasing new products versus right now we're spending more than half of our money repairing vehicles versus replacing vehicles.
Right, which leads to the reason that we trade the Bobcat off every year.
Every year, and that is a new one coming at the end of the month.
Right, that was another one. The Perel ditch legal update, the legal, language has been drafted to correct the Perel easement. This is ready for signature, and I don't know if you've signed it yet, Mitch?
Yeah.
Okay. And Scott is signed up to start, water certification with the DNR, daily punch list items, that was, welcome to Black Earth signs. Other future things we wanna talk about are Black Earth signs, hillside road improvements. Our next meeting is Monday, September 20th at 1 p.m. And I'd give it over to Matt. Did I miss anything?
You got quite a bit of it covered. I guess we did get new fuel cards, so now we're hitting all 3 fuel stations, spreading the love. The shoebox sidewalk, DOT did approve that. I contacted one concrete contractor, they said they don't want the work. Another one I'm waiting to hear back from, so I think it's just the fact of it's so late in the season and everybody's booked up type thing. We'll see if we can still squeeze it in this year, or we'll just have to reapply next year, which shouldn't be an issue. There was some problems with the lift station up in Stephanie Court, with the transducer, which is something that reads water levels. That went into backup mode, so now that's reading on float balls. So basically 2 different ways of identifying levels. Hopefully get that fixed tomorrow or Friday. We got a bunch of new construction homes, so we've been adding meters, adding wiring for that. There was a curb box up in Red Hawk that Heffron, where their subcontractor, had hit over the years. We found it to be leaking. They took care of the repairs, so that should hopefully offset some of our
What's
water
the
loss.
curb spot?
Shut off to a vacant lot.
Oh,
Either got hit in sidewalk removal, cleaning with snow, or lawnmower operations from whoever they have do their stuff, so. Other than that, you got any questions?
Did you get was it the Kubota mower that was having some wobbling issues going on?
Yes, repairs were done, haven't seen anything as far as warranty or stuff like that yet.
Did they say what was wrong with it?
They ended up replacing a tire rod, and they put some new tires on it as well, so they'd be looking into warranty on that.
Did you get a rental?
They did. It was unfortunately just a residential zero turn, so I just happened to figure, well, now's a good time to demo a mower from somewhere else, so I called Homesteaders in Madison. They brought out a lawnmower and said, you put on however many hours you want, and the guy was great to work with. Not so sure that machine that we demoed would be something we'd look at in the future, but it was nice to kind of try something out for free. We put, I think, 12 hours on it, and it didn't cost us anything but a lot of fuel. It was gas versus diesel, so, but that was a free lawnmower.
and I have a question too.
Yep.
Matt, did you say that you were gonna get us a list of, the vehicles and replacement list? Is that done, or is
Do you
that?
want something like what, fire department, is that where you're kind of?
Yeah, did you say you were
Just a
gonna do one of
replacement?
those? Yeah,
Yeah.
replacement years and then,
Yeah, I mean, long as there's backing of the board, I know.
Well, it's
I
gotta go to public works.
typically done that in the past years ago, and it just, there wasn't no backing to do
Oh, I
anything at
thought-
that time, so.
I thought you were gonna do one.
Yeah, I haven't done one yet.
Okay.
That'll be something going forward towards
Because
budgeting.
then we'll kind of know what vehicles, I personally don't even know the names or
Nope,
what you
and that's-
guys have. and
I don't know if that's
what-
something of Public Works to actually have the next meeting at the Public Works shop to look at some of the stuff, or I can just make a sheet and we can go off the sheet. So we'll get to that committee at
Separate
that time.
public works.
One other thing would be Cross Plains does our street sweeping. They recently lost 2 employees due to going to other jobs, so don't know how much we're gonna get them in town to do it anymore this year, and the price
Can we go
seems to
get
be
it?
going up. They will not let us run it, liability issue.
Okay.
You seen Matt drive?
What do they have for the last one?
What do you think our vehicles are
What do you think
breaking
of
all the
350s?
I didn't tell you, those tires were just put on last year. So,
All right. Police committee, Pat?
Well, we met,
Scott?
and we talked about, speed board, data that's been coming in and a likely place to put it. I don't know if it was moved, but we asked that it be put so that we'd be monitoring center, kids going back to school. We also talked at a kind of a roundup on the National Night Out. Everybody thought that that was a wonderful success. I know the officers were excited to do coffee with the cop and live fire training. We still may get to do the live fire training depending on the date of that. You know, with the clamp down, all of a sudden, you know, it's not possible for us to have outdoor meetings or anything or something. I don't know what it is. But the judgment was made that we cancel coffee with a cop, and, we'll see if we get to do that next month. And that was really about it. I can't think of anything else that we discussed at that meeting. Should have my minutes, but,
Yeah, the speed
Next
board
meeting
fill
date?
out the community part.
right.
You know, the next meeting is?
If I had my phone here, I would.
Okay, that's all right.
I'm sorry I don't.
That's
And I
fine.
promise that next time I'll come a lot better prepared.
All right. Well, now we're going to 7, consideration and motion to go in, enter into closed session pursuant statute 19.85, parent 1, parent C, considering employment, promotion, compensation, performance evaluation, data of any public employee over which the governmental body has jurisdiction or exercise responsibility, clerk position. Roll call vote.
Is there,
I make the motion. I move.
I'll second.
all right, roll call. Scott Patchin.
Yes.
Jared Brammerson.
Yes.
Mitch Hodson.
Yes.
Tyler Munson.
Yes.
Carrie Moyer.
Yes.
James Coyle.
yeah.
Mary Scott.
Yes.
All right.
Take 2.
Gary, I'm gonna have to disconnect you because we're going into closed session.
Bye, Bailey.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'll be back.
Okay.
Don't need to stop the recording, Joe.
Need to start bringing cash out of the water.
Thank you.
We don't have to make a motion now in open session, right?
Your action from closed session can be a motion to approve
Okay.
as discussed in closed session.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'll make a motion, we approve what was approved in closed session.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Okay, 4-3, carries. Discussion action on resolution 2021-11, possible, employment or enrollment in dental program. This was discussed at, review time last year.
Yeah, and it was put into the budget.
Yep, we had to wait till open enrollment.
We do. So the resolution to be included into, dental insurance has to be in by October first, which is why it's in front of you right now. I did take a look at, some other plans, of course with Lydia's help, because Vanguard just did the same thing. And we looked at, of course I talked to Aflac, we got the state, and Lydia had worked on the Delta plan. The state plan seems to be the best interest for the employees and has probably the best coverage on preventative maintenance and fillings versus some of the other ones. Not to mention deductibles. There's no deductible on the state plan. We're already on the state plan for health insurance purposes, and it would make it very easy to take care of the dental through that state plan as well. So, again, we did budget for this in, this year's budget.
These premiums are for the employee, not the.
Yeah, so, what it is on a village cost to opt into the state dental plan. The additional cost, a month is the village's portion in that column. So, because most of us are on a family plan,
Gotcha.
I don't think Bailey's on a single. So, that would be the village's cost per month for those that are on health insurance for dental. So it's an 80/20.
Okay.
And this would go into effect on 1/1 of 22, right?
That is correct, yeah.
Okay.
So is the recommendation the state plan then?
Yes, my recommendation is to go with the state plan, and the resolution in your packet for it.
If I'm not looking at the right paper.
What it looks like, I don't know if I did or not, I'm sorry if I didn't.
It might have been, I might have just, there's a lot of paperwork here.
Look at it. I know, I have a lot of paperwork. Benefit we've been wanting to add to the staff for a long time.
So I make a motion to approve adding the dental state plan to our benefits package.
Second.
I'll second, okay.
Sorry, I'll speak up more.
All right, we got a first and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Mary opposed.
You're
Yeah.
opposed, Mary?
Mhm.
All right, it passes.
Wonderful.
Especially fluoride, I'm sure.
All right. Any other business that may be brought for the board for future agendas?
I had a thought, there's a lot of stuff in the news about, refugees and communities and things that communities are doing to help refugees, and I didn't know if it would be pertinent to start a discussion of things that we as a community could possibly do. I don't know if it would be just fundraising or welcoming, or even going so far as working with Habitat for Humanity for, you know, I see the, you know, I don't need to go into some ideas I have, that can be the discussion, but I think it would be good for us to at least talk about things that we might be able to do. If anybody else has ideas, I'd love to hear it,
Absolutely.
because I certainly have ideas.
I'm actually going to be heading to Fort McCoy. I'm gonna be helping them because of, my background.
Okay,
And I know that I can give you, fundraising for money, yes, great, but if you want a list of the items that they're looking for too, I can give you a list of
That'd be great.
items.
yeah,
That'd be great.
yeah, that'd be great.
I'll be heading to my week, when they select my week.
All right,
Well, let's put it on the agenda for next time too, to talk about. Anything else? Meeting announcements? October fifth. What? That was October fifth. Yeah, it was. I'll have to look at that. All right.
Should we, before we get out of here, should we plan this a meeting that we need to do within the next week? So
Oh, for emergency management, that would be fantastic.
Well, you can, but, just let me know. I'll make it work. I'm gonna have to sign the checks and go, because I got another meeting.
Okay,
Okay.
so what do you wanna do? I'm open.
Yeah, I'm open.
Okay, let me look at all the other meetings tomorrow and, okay, I'll do it.
All right.
Tuesdays.
We adjourn.
I'll second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
You feel free to stay on as long as you like, Terry. It's gonna be a lot of silence.
Already got